Hi, my name is Karen Holmes. I'm the founder and director of the World Peace Organization for the One World Government. I'm going to make this relatively short this morning. I wanted to cover some very important issues that are going on right now, but I'd also like to watch the January 6th committee hearings that are starting, and then I have a very busy day after that. So I'm going to make this short, but I'm going to condense it into some very important information. I have been working on my books. As I said, I have this vast amount of information, and I've been working on a new book, getting it ready to go and go online. In my amateur quality books, the professional publishing team hasn't come yet. So I wanted to talk about today about security issues, and I wanted to talk about this book that I've been working on, but bring it together with all the events that are happening right now in Washington, D.C., and also next Sunday is Juneteenth in the United States, a new federal holiday, and basically that celebrates the emancipation of Black people and freedom. So we're talking about slavery, we're talking about security, we're talking about the U.S. government and dealing with the security related to the January 6th event and our government. And this is all a very important part of our life right now, especially considering this week or this month, basically, the Supreme Court is also going to be ruling on Dobbs, which is whether or not they're going to overturn Roe v. Wade, and basically ripples of effects will go out, basically taking away the rights of our people. So we need to figure out a way for an issue related to security, and that's basically what I wanted to talk about today. First of all, let's talk about Juneteenth and slavery. Slavery was built on a misunderstanding, and I'm going to tell you what Seth told me and our guides told us as we were working at the prayer circle. They told us, Seth, my main guide, I can talk to anyone on the other side. Seth told us that the slavery is kind of based on a misunderstanding. Now I'm not talking about the power game of slavery. I'm talking about the idea of racism and slavery, that the slaves coming over, being brought here as the Black people coming from Africa. The application of the game of slavery. Okay, when and I think I've touched on this before, that in the slave trade, that when the white people went into Africa, and I've talked about King Leopold's Ghost, that book, and about what happened with Stanley and Livingston and the King of Belgium, who wanted to, King Leopold, Queen Victoria's uncle, I think he was, if I remember correctly, he wanted to have a colony. So when he went into Africa, he was sending people in and to take diamonds, and also there was rubber plantations and such there. They had natural resources that were being coveted by the British Empire and by Belgium. They're all related, basically, and they have this idea of colonialism and such. What they did when they went in there, they felt they owned the place. So what happened was of course, the Black people had been there forever. Many different tribes, and when somebody in power came up in power, with this tribe, when there was a potential competitor, they didn't have elections, of course, the competitor became a threat to the person who was already the leader of the tribe. So what he would do is he would sell that person into slavery for another tribe, and it was a problem. It got rid of the guy, and he was basically a threat, a power threat. When the white people went in there and saw that they were selling these people into slavery, moving them out into another tribe and getting money in return, or equivalent of money, what they did was the white people looked at that and said, what kind of savages are these people for selling their people into slavery? Well, their culture went back so many hundreds of thousands of years, you could say. That is how they developed a sense of stability in their cultures. It was then when the white people moved in, then it was like, we need people to help us move. We need to get people to help us move all of our stuff around the rapids on the Congo River, and so it's 100 miles of rapids there, and so they got these slaves. They were sold into slavery. Well, hey, we have people, and we need slaves in the United States. It's hot there. These people are used to the heat, so then they started to bring them to the United States. They were sold into slavery into the United States. And of course, the people were kept down. Okay, now Juneteenth then was the point with the Emancipation Proclamation. Okay, during our Civil War, we freed the slaves. Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. Our founding fathers didn't address that when they did the Constitution because the economy was based on that in the South. It took a long time. They couldn't get everybody to sign it at that point in time because they either had a nation or they didn't have a nation. Okay? So therefore, now Juneteenth then, slavery, the game of slavery, is one of the ideas of based on weaving an illusion. There are 7 power games that people and governments play. Governments generally play 5 of the games, and those are related to revenge. So we're looking at the game of slavery as being one of the games that governments and people play, and it's based on weaving an illusion. And I've talked about the games of revenge before, so you can go back and look at that. But today I wanted to talk about security and how to deal with this idea of racism. Let's say shootings in the school. How about Russia coming over here and with their torpedoes and their hypersonic missiles, and also the nesting doll and the drone. Nesting doll up there is the satellite smasher. Okay, so we can't defend ourselves against those, and it really doesn't matter because as we're evolving, we should really have a diplomatic way to do that, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. I've been working on this book, and I want to use this as a cover for the first principle for the international government. Each of the world's 7 major religions, this on the cover I'm going to use, each of the world's 7 major religions teaches one principle of the information that you need to create the life you want. Jesus of Nazareth, Christianity, teaches the principles of creativity. Judaism teaches the principles of productivity. Gautama Buddha in Buddhism teaches the principles of prosperity. Islam, the Prophet Muhammad teaches the principles of equality, and Rama and Hinduism teaches the principles of security. So that's why this is as blue as the color of security. This is like a rainbow, the rainbow colors. indigo is Confucianism, and teaches the principles of capacity, and Lao Tzu teaches the principles of tolerance and empowerment. So if you are going to create the life you want, your plan has to address each of these ideas. Well, each of the 7 major religions also teaches one power game, relies on one power game. So that's where we are here. Christians wage war. Muslims, the power game is terrorism. This is genocide. And this is massacres. Massacres are based on the game of money and greed, and so it's like the alternate idea is the positive and negative poles of it. Okay, so when we're looking at security issues, we're looking at all of these different relationships between the religions and how they are as I said, how they interact with each other. Then that's what's in this book. It explains how this happens, security issues. So Jesus, I channeled this book with Jesus of Nazareth, and he teaches the principles of creativity, but also, so he's writing a book about security issues. You see how they kind of interact. They have, on the opposing sides, they interact. They have something in common, and that is coming up with a plan to defend yourself. How do you defend yourself? And what's important here is that the center point between these ideas is what's in the middle of the circle, and that is the plan for the international government. This is the picture, a diagram of what the face of the puree is, which brings together all the world's 7 major religions to teach people how to create the life that they want. So each one of these addresses one of the 7 power games, including genocide and slavery. When you are a slave, if you come from Africa in a different continent, there's no way that you're ever going to be able to go home, and there's no home to go to because you've been sold, and your tribe won't accept you back. What happens is you have to have somewhere to go. When the slaves in the South, like Harriet Tubman, they had to go, they took the Underground Railroad, and they went to like Alexandria. That was a stopping point right next to Washington, D.C., the North. They got out of the South, they went to the line between the North and the South, and then they were free. And sometimes they had to go up into Canada because of that. Okay, so now we're looking at the counterpoint is the plan for the international government, which is in here. So if you have classrooms here that teach each of the, like a school, and these are each of the 7 major religions come together to teach the principles of this, what happens is you have, the center point is the plan for the international government. You have somewhere to go. If you believe you've been oppressed, you can go to this place, and the international government will guarantee your rights to leave if you feel you've been oppressed. Your country, every country will have these schools in them, and as part of this plan for the international government. And then when you go to that place, you'll be taught how to create the life you want, and then you'll be able to your right to leave, and the international government may also decide, give you a place you can apply for asylum in another country. You don't have to walk 2,000 miles from Central America to the United States to ask for asylum when the wall has come down and there is no way to get through the wall. You're sitting there in Mexico waiting to be able to get in to ask for asylum. You see, you just go here, and then they will transport you up and out and find you a place where your talents and gifts are needed. If you're a student and you're going through this, it doesn't matter which country you're in, because they'll be teaching basically the same principles. Each of the religions will be teaching the same principles. of how to create the life you want. Now, the international government, how this will solve this problem. So it solves the problem based on the power games. Juneteenth, this is your underground railroad, you can say, that will take you someplace else. And then the international government will be based, like on the U.S. Constitution, that the countries that have a greater population will be accepting people to come in, because the power that nation has will be based in the House of Representatives on population. So any country where their government is oppressive will be losing power in the international government. And the countries that are more tolerant will be rising in power. So instead of you being somebody, we don't want you, keep out, we don't want you, basically it'll be, hey, come on in. You know, we're working with educated people here, people who know how to create their life, they know what they're doing. Basically, it'll be a welcome sign for you to come in, because on the international basis, your country will be very powerful. China, for example, right now, they're exercising their power. They're talking about military. They're talking about taking over Taiwan. They're talking about all these different things, expanding their sphere of influence, economic sphere. They're competing economically. But what happens if the plan, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to be part of this. But what happens if all those oppressive actions that they have in taking over natural resources, they need a lot of natural resources. So basically, they're oppressive. Their agreements with governments have led to things like Darfur, as the government pushes the people out, and the natural resources are what's important, and how you can line your own pocket. Well, under those circumstances, China will lose a lot of its population because it's oppressive. And China, instead of being this very economic powerhouse, will just lose power on the international government because of that. The people will be moving out, and they'll be coming to places that are more benevolent to its people because of this idea. It'll create a sense of stability. The governments, the power games, will just backlash on the people because of that. So the plan for the international government, it has a way to solve security issues by working with all the religions to teach people how to do it. But the center point is a plan for the international government, because it'll guarantee to everyone their rights. So the center point of the plan for the international government has to stand on universal law to treat everybody fairly and equally. It can't be the idea of, like, January 6th, that we're going to have power and we're going to stay in power and we're going to indefinitely, and there isn't any way, because we control the states, we control the judges, we control everything. We're going to just make sure you don't exist anymore. We're going to wipe you out. That mentality isn't going to last anymore. What will happen, instead of us moving out, they're talking about the possibility of a civil war in the United States. Well, the best way to do that is to stand on this idea of the international government, and to work together, the people who recognize the potential of this, to stand on universal law. And because it's immutable, it would be easier to get rid of gravity than it would be to get rid of universal law. Okay, because it applies to every atom in the universe. What we have here, the international government has to stand on the universal law. And my letter to the Supreme Court, which is on the website, and you can, in the reference menu, and you can download that if you ever have any problems with the law. You can print it out and take it to your attorney and say, hey, I have an issue. I'm taking our government to court because they're oppressive. Okay? So universal law, the letter to the Supreme Court introduces universal law. It introduces the plan for the international government. it introduces universal law into our legal system, and that's the basis of the international legal system also. So there you go. If you are interested in security issues, this is how we deal with security. Rama taught the principles of security. Hinduism teaches the principles of security. And in the Faith of the Pure, we'll go into that in greater depth. So what I'd like you to do, this is the World Peace Marketing Strategy. This is online too. You can download a copy of this off the internet, have it printed out, and then this addresses also the power games and how the Faith of the Pure is one of these projects that's associated with the second row. And this row, let's say if it's the father, the mother, the children, and let's say the extended family or the adversaries outside the family people who function for their own interests, what we have is both of these rows, the top rows, both of these people will be working with the Faith of the Pure to get their power back again. You can look at this. My book is not ready to be published yet until I bring in the professional publishing team. But you can look at these and find out all the information. I haven't completely gone through all of these and put links on the one on the internet. You don't have to print it out. The one on the internet in the World Peace Marketing Strategy on the right side of the page has links to, many of these have links to the projects associated with it, and you can find out more about that on the links. So anyway, it is 7 o'clock our time on the West Coast, and the commission is starting, so I'll get this uploaded sometime today. Juneteenth, we have a solution for racism. Racism is based on these 5 power games, and the games are basically oppressive to the people. So now there's a place to go, and there's a place to come home to, basically, because people basically like to live within their cultures. So I'm going to end this now and go watch the January 6th committee, and I hope you do that too. So thank you. I ask that you like, share, and subscribe, but most of all share, because this is important. Thank you.